Hi, everyone. Welcome to Testimony Tuesday. It's just a monthly thing that we have going on with the midweek mic. Today, we have my dad. He's going to give his testimony.
Hey, everybody.
It's pretty powerful. He is a jokester, so hopefully he'll keep it a little serious, but give us some good laughs as well. Yeah, we're just going to jump right into it. Dad, do you want to just give everybody like a little bit of a background on maybe what was your life growing up? How was that as a child? How was your relationship with God at the time?
I grew up in a small town here. At the time, it was called Spangler. My father was a coal miner. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. There was three of us, me and my two sisters. It was a normal childhood that I thought I was having as I grew up. But the thing that I noticed a lot of is we was always having fun. There was always people at our house. We was always partying. My mom and dad always hosted parties, and we just thought it was a normal thing.
So what do you mean, like you thought it was a normal childhood and then also partying? Are we talking about like birthday cake and balloons?
No, we had our normal birthdays. People was always at the house older than us, and us kids always played with the other kids that come over. But there was a lot of drinking going on, and they play spoons and cards and poker and stuff like that. To us, we thought it was normal because the people they hung around with, everybody was doing the same thing. As I grew into a teenager was probably when I noticed a lot of things were a little different out there. There were, I guess I would call normal people at the time. It's hard to believe, but
Who's normal anymore?
yeah, who is normal?
Relatively.
But it was just a lot of things that I noticed other things are going on, and a lot of it had to change over the years as I was growing into a teenager. I was going through puberty, and next thing you know, I started liking girls. That's when things started changing. I met that special somebody, and when I met that special somebody, she introduced me to a different way of living, and it was still having fun, still partying, but different way of partying, where the alcohol was involved. You weren't watching dirty movies or porn or anything like that. You was actually watching the Goonies or something in that kind of thing. But when I grew up, the things that I'm talking about, to me, was normal. Yeah. I used to sit at the table with my dad, 12 years old. Instead of looking at the Reader's Digest, we're going looking at a Playboy. I know Dwayne's probably not hearing a lot of this stuff for the first time, and Steph's probably shocked, but to me, that was normal. And some of my friends that I hung around with, some were the same way, but most of them weren't. And then they started running around with me, and then I was known as stay away from that Boody Abrams because bad influence stuff. I had the reputation.
So wait, first before we go forward, so his name is Dwayne, like me, but they call him Boody. Yeah. Which, do you know, I actually looked that up because I was like, what does that even mean? And it's funny because I feel like it fits you a little bit. It's a slang term meant to mean like an angry person.
Who gave you that name?
It's funny how you brought that up because my dad, whenever I was born, and he used to call me his little buddy. Oh. My sister Sandy was young and she couldn't pronounce buddy, so she always said Boody. Oh. So that's how it stuck.
That's funny.
It's funny because you ask a lot of people about Dwayne in the area, and all the way when I went to school here, they asked me, what do we put on your diploma? Boody or Dwayne? And a lot of people, and even to this day, don't know my real name is Dwayne. Yeah. They think it's Boody. But when people used to find out Boody, they're like, oh, he's fun, but you got to watch out. Yeah. He's also trouble.
I know that reputation still stuck when I went to school because people were like, oh, who's your dad? And I'd say Boody. And they'd be like, oh, he was a bad kid in school.
Yeah.
I think every single teacher I had, back in the day, you were able to paddle. And every single teacher I had, I think, said they paddled you.
I got paddled by every teacher there was. Even my senior year, I got paddled by the superintendent of the school. And he couldn't hit that hard. I told him, hit me as much as you want. Because growing up, my discipline and punishment was just not getting hit, physically hit. I was getting smacked, and I had the belt.
Yeah.
That's nothing. That actually made me think of other things. But when you start getting cracked with a cutting board, and the cutting board cracks, and you realize this ain't bothering you. I used to have put fake tears on so they just quit hitting me, but it didn't bother me. And I used to take a lot of the smacks and stuff to protect my sisters too. I used to say it was my fault or something because I didn't want to see them get hit. But everybody knew who I was. I had fun, but I didn't take anything either. I remember Dwayne and his two brothers went trick-or-treating in the town that I grew up in, and we knocked on the doors, and they're standing there, and the lady goes, "Oh, who's your dad?" But he gave them, they shut the door, and he thought, "Oh, there's three of them." And it's like, oh, no, they're not like me, because if they were...
I think two of us were good.
Yeah.
We'll figure out who the third.
Yeah, all three is real good. But
So going back to how you grew up, how was church for you guys? Was it non-existent? Did you know who God was? Or
well,
like I feel like sometimes also maybe in this area people know who God is, but they think of him more of an authoritarian who's going to
Stop the fun.
yeah.
Yeah.
And you said you guys loved to party and fun. So did you guys have a relationship with God at all? Or
no.
anybody in your family?
My grandfather on my mother's side, from when I was told that he was a preacher, my great-grandfather and my grandfather, they went to read the Bible and stuff, but I never seen them actually go to church. My father's side, they were Catholics but not Catholic. They was Methodist but not Methodist. They knew who God was. They respected the churches, but I never seen them ever go to the churches. As we was running in a neighborhood with kids, they used to have vacation Bible schools used to come around into the little areas. And there was volunteers from other churches from out of the area. They weren't even from this area. And we couldn't wait to go to these vacation Bible schools because we're learning about God. And I didn't know what was going on. And I understand now about that seed that's planted.
Yeah.
My seed was planted, but it wasn't watered for a long time. But over the years, we always couldn't wait for vacation Bible school. And then as some of my friends that I was hanging out with, their families did go to church. So I wanted to go, and they asked me to go. I said, yeah, I'll try it out. I started going to church, and then I found out there was a lot of other teenagers that I went to school with that went to a church in Gormantown, and we had fun. And it was fun to be with other teenagers. And these are kids that you've seen at school that every day that you went to school with. Mm-hmm. And it felt good in a way. But still, I was still partying. I was still doing the things that I like to do. But I wasn't in the spiritual realm. I guess that's what you call it at this time yet. So yeah, that was my church.
Yeah, it makes us feel good, like when we hear about the VBS thing, because we just came off a week of VBS at our church, and as an adult, we're exhausted. Yeah. And you just like look around, you're like,
every evening for a week.
Why are we doing this? But just hearing, just even that
seeds are planted. Yeah.
Seeds are planted, and as a VBS worker, you're somebody who has the opportunity, I think, to touch the life of a child where maybe they don't ever see God, and
that might be the only opportunity that they get to hear about Jesus if the family's not going to church all the time.
Yeah. And then like you seeing those teenagers they probably had the foundation at home too to grow. They probably looked at your family and thought, wow, that family is a lot more fun. But from hearing about your past, like it wasn't all just like parties and fun games. Like you've mentioned about some kind of physical abuse with like paddles and stuff, but I don't know if you want to touch on it, but you've also had some emotional abuse as well.
Oh yeah, over the years as I learn and I think back and I open up more and more as an adult and I talk to my spouse, I think about things that went on. I might get emotional, but the other thing about the Vacation Bible School is just not the local area. But I had my aunt, and she was a true Christian, and her name was Aunt Lillian. At her church, she actually took the church bus, come in these areas 13, 14 miles out of the way to pick us kids up. All the neighboring kids. Anybody want to get on a bus and learn about God? They took us down there. But what enticed us?
Man, though, the 70s and 80s, because now I feel like if we were going...
If a bus pulled beer house, we're like, what do you call the BBS? Like,
you know,
we have candy.
that's what I'm getting to, because it's not like the green bus, okay? It was like the partridge bus. They come and pick you up, and they enticed you to come on down and learn about God. And your parents had to give the approval, which most parents didn't mind back then, because they actually didn't want their kids around. They wanted, get out of my hair and go. Yeah. He used to give us these big, giant, great sticks, big of bubble gum. And that's the only reason we got on. Now we're on this bus, and the bubble gum don't last that long. We're like, now what? But when we went there, the inside of their church was so beautiful. It had the cathedral ceilings, and it looked like a big ocean. And to me, it always looked like Shamu, the Orca well, whatever. But it was so beautiful in the crafts and the people and the songs, the bushel and blowing. Yeah. I can remember all this stuff growing up. And these are all before I hit the ages of 14, 15 years old. But now as I turn in to be that next adult teenager is what I call it. I don't know if they call it adolescent or whatever it is. That's when I mentioned about I still did the partying. I start doing some drugs. I experimented with drugs, nothing to where I internally stuck any needles or anything. It was all something that I smoked and held or swallowed or stuff like that, just to try it. I never got addicted to anything like it. My main thing was still, I loved to drink alcohol and I loved to smoke cigarettes, and at a very young age. And it was...
How old do you think you were when you started, like, drinking and smoking?
Oh, I was probably...
Like, when you had your first drink?
Actually, the drink beer itself... To me, it's embarrassing.
That's okay.
I know. But we thought it was a big deal. My lifestyle growing up, we had a keg, a beer in a refrigerator. Oh, yeah. You have a refrigerator where you have your food and everything. And we actually had a beer keg in the refrigerator where you actually pour your beer, and my father or my uncles or whoever might be at the house, hey, Woodpecker, another nickname, or go give me a beer. So whenever you went into the other room, you filled the beer up.
Oh, yeah.
You always took a drink. So it might have been 7, 8 years old.
Oh, wow.
But I really getting into it, like I said, when I started hitting 14, 15 years old, I'm out. Just not only drinking either at the house, or we was having keg parties with neighborhood kids, or out, and they had them out here at golf course parties and grass hill parties. It was normal, and there was 30, 40 people there, and most of us weren't even old enough to drink. Some of us weren't even 18, but there was no problem with us cutting the alcohol. I used to go out with my dad. He was a hard worker. He provided a great house for us, clothing and stuff like that, food. He worked very hard, never missed a day of work. Whenever it was Saturdays, it was his time. Sundays and Saturdays, it was his time to go. He'd get up first thing early in the morning, off to the local tavern to play cards with his brothers or friends, and he was going all day. And in order for me to actually see my dad, I had to get up and get with him, or I wouldn't see him. And I'd spend all day with him.
Yeah.
And there was times I might have a snort here or there in the bars. Lots of times, one cop, he actually found out when I was 21. He thought I was probably about 27 or 28. I said, no, I just turned 21. Oh, but see, I looked older for my age, and I act different. I always hanged around older people, my uncles. My grandmother had a large family because I started meeting somebody. I was this little chubby kid with these glasses, and I always put myself out there as Patrick from SpongeBob. If you look at it now, scenario. But whenever I met that girl, I turned completely around. I was lifting weights all the time. I was jogging in place. I went from like maybe about 240, 250 when I was in 10th grade, and I went down to 168 pounds.
Wow,
and you might look at me now, and that was a lot of years, but I had the six pack and I had the abs and everything. No, I had the
We all
core.
did. I think we all did until we got married and found that person.
You do that, but the thing is, you still want to look that way for your.
Yeah.
I want to.
It's a lot harder.
In your eyes, they always say, "You still look good to me." Yeah. What do you have, a Reese cup in the back pocket? Come on.
You mentioned, so like your childhood and stuff, it was more relaxed. Your dad was introducing porn to you at a young age and drinking and drugs and everything. And you've done that up through high school. And then you met that girl who is my mother. They met at school. They were 15, 14.
She was 15 and I was 15. Yeah, almost 16. We met at school.
Yeah.
But getting back to the growing up with the drinking, experimenting with drugs and everything like that. Also, they're coming to gambling, and I did that kind of stuff and hooping and hollering. But what kind of struck me strange is my dad, I love him to death. He didn't approve of any of the stuff that I was doing. So if they ever caught me, I'd get in trouble.
That's interesting.
They're the ones who introduced it, and they're the ones who are doing it.
Yeah, and if I get caught smoking, I had to eat a pack of cigarettes.
Ooh.
Which it didn't bother me because, remember, I also at that time I used to chew tobacco snuff.
Yeah.
Didn't bother me. And he still get mad at me. And there I am walking to the local pool hall, and I'm smoking on my way down on the main road. I used to be terrified in case my dad see me, he'd give me a lick or something. And it was strange because my mom was my friend. She might give me a cigarette or two, or I'd walk up to my aunt's house and she might give me a cigarette or two and stuff. But it was weird that he was against it.
It's probably like that thing where you do it and that's all you knew as a parent, but then you want your kids to be better. So maybe that's the mentality he had. He wants you to be better than what he was. So unfortunately,
as we get further into my testimony, I'll explain a lot of that. But I see what you're saying, but it just never made sense to me.
Yeah.
As a kid, it wouldn't make sense. It's like a hypocritical type of situation you were in.
Exactly. But whenever I met that special somebody, like I said, I start changing my looks. I start changing my hair. I threw away the glasses. I start smelling good. That was different. But I still like to party. I don't know what the saying is. I like to have my cake and eat it too. Is that how it goes? Or I like to...
Keep talking. We'll see if that's what it is.
I think that's what it is.
You never.
But it's not that as you're trying to be with somebody.
Oh, so you were trying to be the good person for her, but then also wanted your same lifestyle that you were in.
It's like Moochie. I kiss her, hug her, watch her TV shows, go up to her house every Wednesdays from school and have pizza with her and stuff.
So you were living like a double life.
And I'm like showing her that this is the man you want to be with. And then as I leave, I'm going to the pool hall, I'm doing the drink, and I'm not cheating on her, but I have this flirtation way, and I don't mean to be that way. I always call it the AC. It's called the Abrams charm. It's just something we have, and I know Dwayne has it. And we do have it. Look at him. But it's like she sees one of the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, plain and simple. And it's not, this ain't the way it's going to happen. As we seen each other, like I said, she was a freshman going in sophomore. I was a sophomore going in my junior year. We went to all three proms, my junior, senior, and her senior prom. She's still with me to this day. We celebrated 2 weeks ago or a week ago, 37 years marriage, but we've been together for 40 years, and I still don't know why. Honestly, I don't know why she ever stayed with me, because of some of the things that I'm talking about, where I'm dating her and having fun, I love her, but I still party. What I'm trying to get to is, as the years went by, I graduated. She's still a senior. I moved to Virginia and I worked. She was back here. We still weren't having a relationship. Mm-hmm. We was still doing things that you shouldn't be doing until you're married. And the good Lord, to this day, I thank him and I praise him and bless him, because we didn't have a child out of wedlock. And I'll be honest, I can't believe it never happened. But the Lord knows what he's doing. So eventually she graduated. She moved to Connecticut with her sister. Here I am in Virginia. We said whoever gets the apartment first, that's where we're going to live. I couldn't save money because I lived with 17 guys. So half of them wouldn't pay the rent, so me and the other guys had to do whatever. She got a place, I moved to Connecticut. We started, not married yet, started living with each other. And eventually I proposed to her. When I proposed to her, she said yes with no hesitation because, like I said, by that time we was already together for 4 or 5 years.
So you would have been 18, 19,
I was
19, 20?
I was 19. And we proposed. We got married in August 6, 1988. And that's when we set the date. She was the most beautiful thing I ever seen. Until this day, she's still beautiful. And I'm just not saying that because I'm on camera, but she's always the beauty or my angel. And I always tell her that she's always been my angel. But eventually, we started having children. We moved from Connecticut to Virginia. I come home one day from work, and next thing you know, she tells me that she's going to have a child. And
the best thing that's ever happened?
The best thing that ever happened
in the world
was one of the things that happened. Our son Dwayne was born May 16th, 19...
So it was like 10 months later.
Yes.
After you got married.
So it wasn't that I had her married because she was pregnant.
No, you just had
the Lord
fun.
knew what he was doing, and I still didn't understand about the Lord. I still lived my ways. We had our fights, but eventually, whenever Dwayne was born, Nisha just said, my main thing is my son Dwayne. He's going to know Christ, and that's how I'm going to live my life. She never really partied. She never really did anything bad. And she took motherhood a whole different way. And she stuck to it until this day. She still sticks to it.
Yeah, I remember her saying when she got pregnant, she decided that was it. She was going to fully commit to God and raise me in the church no matter if you weren't going to be there or not.
True. And that kind of used to hurt me in ways because when she used to tell me this stuff, and it bothered me. But again, remember, that seed's planted. And when she's telling me this stuff, and Sundays, she'd take my son Dwayne to church. If I wasn't working, which I worked a lot, I'd go somewhere with my friends up to the Blue Moreland, have a few beers on a Sunday. That was my church. Okay. Yes, when Dwayne did the little church things, the little
skits
and stuff, they was stupid. In my eyes, they were stupid. I'll be honest. All right, I'm just
probably give my heart and soul.
I know. I'm just going to let everybody know that Dwayne does have a dad. That Nisha is married. And after this is over with, I go out into the parking lot as I'm walking out of the church, lighting up a cigarette, and he might have a can of beer in the car. That's how I go through all this. Over the years, it started getting worse and worse. When you get up in the middle of the night, and by this time, I already got rid of the drugs. I quit doing the drugs. It was like May 10th, 1986, I think. It wasn't very long that I was into them. But Nisha heard rumors from other people in school and everything that I was doing drugs. And I was hanging around with maybe the different kind of crowd of people. I hung around with everybody, but these ones are a little bit more
harder
partiers than the other ones. So I said, no, I won't do this again. And I didn't do them no more. So as we're growing as a family, I'm like thinking to myself, now what should I do? I love my family, I love my kid and everything. All of a sudden, a tragedy hit me real hard. And it was August 1991. I get a phone call and a father passed away. He was only 41 years old. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. Thought maybe it was something. When I got the phone call from the cop to come home, I thought maybe it was something because my cousin just got married that week, and I thought maybe he was intoxicated. And then I remember driving, and the wipers were broke, and I had a piece of string on the wipers going like this, trying to guess. I was drunk, and my father was drunk, and I'm thinking maybe I hit somebody or something. And then the cop said no. We found him near the house. He died. I flew from work and home way down, and I'm thinking, what's going on? My head's spinning, can't get this. And I go into the homestead, and there's somebody covered up on the floor, and it's my dad. And, I go in. I'm mad at him.
Okay.
Very young. He knew he had a problem with alcohol, but he didn't learn. That's how he grew up. And his dad before him, that's how they grew up.
Yeah.
When you're living in this area and you're a coal miner, a lot of them, they depended on the alcohol to get away from the stress. That's the only thing they had, work, drink, sex. They had large families. And my dad didn't learn any other way. We tried explaining to him he had a problem. But there I am explaining to him he had a problem, and there I have a problem myself, and I didn't realize it yet. But there he is. I'm holding him, hugging him, don't know what to do. My mother's still young. My sister was there, and they had to take him. The coroner took him. He died of intoxication. In other words, he drank himself to death at a young age, threw everything away. I was so mad. I have a son. He's never even going to see grow up, and he loved Dwayne. And he had a niece, my granddaughter, his granddaughter Barbie, and another grandson, Kevin. And there was one, my sister Candy, he was having one on the way. And he's not going to know any of this. This runs through your mind. And it just upsets you. If he would have just listened. And then there you go, it's running through your mind. If I was there, if I would have done this, but finding out different stories, and everybody says, if this person wouldn't have done that, he probably, no. There's only one person to blame, and that's him. Yeah. Hey, I don't blame it on me, I don't blame it on anybody else, it was him. If he would have maybe had a mustard seed, and he grew, or had that way of getting in touch with God, or talking to other people, maybe he'd still be here today, but we'll never know.
I think there was probably some things from his past that he needed to deal with, and it's just he didn't have the right people around him to come. Or maybe he did. Maybe God did try to reach out to him through his life too, and then he just ignored it.
No.
It's easier to live in those moments. The next trajectory of your life, you would think from there you stop drinking, but it's not what happened.
No. And no, it just got worse. I started getting mean. I started drinking more. Like I said, getting up in the middle of the night instead of having a glass of milk. I shotgun 2 cans of beer. And what I mean by shotgun, you stick a little hole in the bottom of the can, stick that there, pop the top, and down it goes. Steph did a couple of them one time too, I could tell.
I know what it is.
It started getting bad, and Nisha noticed a lot of stuff that was going on, and then I started having a fear. I'm embarrassed about it. I started having a fear of somebody that stayed with me through everything. And she never gave up on me. And then one day, you wake up in the middle of the morning and you're holding your son, and there's a state police officer over top of you, and he says, "Come with me, sir. Come outside. You're under arrest." And I'm like, well, what's going on? You're under arrest. What are you talking about? And I noticed my son had some blood underneath his nose and stuff. I'm like, what's going on? And as I'm going down the hallway, and I look over and I see my wife standing there, and she's beat up. I looked at her and I said, I'll never do this again. I am so sorry. I hear these stories over and over again that, oh, he's sorry and they'll take me back. I was sorry.
I do remember, that's like probably one of my first memories actually, is laying there and I was with you in bed, and I remember the cop coming and taking you away, and I was yelling at Mom, and I was upset with her because in my child head, you already said you were sorry after you pushed her, punched her, and beat her up and then bloodied my nose. You said sorry, so I had that mentality that he said he was sorry. Mom, why did you even call the cops?
And I think Dad's your idol too at that age, where you're...
Yeah. My dad, growing up, because you're right across from me, so this is awkward, but the reason that I thought Boody as being an angry person was so coincidental is because a majority of my life, I remember my dad just being angry. So for the first 5 years of my life, he was still a heavy drinker. he was still partying and missing a lot of my life. And then when he did stop drinking, he still had to deal with that anger. And I feel like anger was something that he didn't he didn't get a hold of until about high school for me. So he was just a very angry person. But knowing how he grew up, he hasn't mentioned nearly anything close to what he's been growing up with his dad, and the treatment that he's dealt with from his dad and then other people in his life, the abuse that he's received. It makes more sense as an adult.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember that day, and I just remember being so sad. My family broke up for a little bit because dad actually got kicked out of the house.
Yeah, that's when, like you said, I was upset too. She did the right thing, but at that time, as you're thinking, is why? You just embarrassed me, and now my name, everybody's going to find out, and this and that. But you know what? Just boo-hoo, that's your fault after you look at it.
She had no other choice.
No, she had no other choice, and she took it as long as she could, and until this day, I still don't understand why she stuck with me. They arrested me, they took me up to the courthouse, the magistrate office, they shackled me to the floor, told me I had an hour to have post bail. If not, I'm going to jail. And so I called my uncle to bail me out, go to the house. They won't let me go to the house and get it. And he said he doesn't. I said he don't drive that fast. So if he drives fast, you ain't got to charge him for a speeding ticket. It's one of those things. So eventually I got home, but I wasn't allowed around her because for 2 weeks,
Domestic abuse.
I had domestic abuse, and they had some type of A or P or something against me or stuff. So I couldn't even see her, and I couldn't even see Dwayne, and so I had to go stay with my mom. And this is kind of unusual. There was my father that died at 41 years old. My mother's very young. She didn't know what she was going to do with herself. And in the area we live in, they had 17 bars and 3 blocks. And that's what everybody knew back then. That's what I'm saying. So she says, what am I going to do? And we found out there was a bar that was going to be for sale. It used to be called the MTA, and it had apartments in it. We checked into it, and she purchased it. And it's unusual because there is your dad that died of drinking. And now my mother's going to own the establishment. It's just crazy. But she made a good living from it, and I helped her out. And like I said, that's whenever I started getting real bad. But I had to stay with her, and I'll never forget what my mom said to me. My mom never understood, and to this day I understand now, but I never understood why she stayed with my dad either, because I know she went through the abuse, and she didn't need to put up with that. But as women back then, they just shut their mouth and just dealt with it. And because they didn't want to embarrass maybe their family, took marriage totally right to the end.
Also, being a mother, being a woman back then with children, what were you going to do?
Yeah, eventually.
You wouldn't be able to
How could you support your family?
So it was easier.
So she made dad, so I stayed with her, and she looked straight at me one night and she says, you cannot live your life anymore the way you want to live it. That's not fair to her, and it's not fair to your son. So you need to make that decision. Let her go, or change your ways. Man, that just really jumped on me. And then I didn't go to Christ. I didn't go to God. I did pray. And I'm thinking, I don't want to see my son with somebody else. I don't want to see him call somebody else daddy. I don't want to see her be with anybody else. And I'm like, man, what do I do? And I did pray about it. And I got my answer. And I changed my ways. And now the biggest thing I had to deal with was her mom and her dad. And it was more embarrassing for me.
Grandma Donna.
It wasn't more of Grandma Donna.
Pappy Roy.
It was my father-in-law, Pappy Roy. He's my best friend to this day. And we do a lot together. But I think I hurt him more than anything else. And I proved myself over the years, I think. And I think they owe me something now, but I'm just kidding.
No.
But I think I proved myself over the years. But yes, it was tough. And it was just strange that you go through this life through all this alcohol that you go through, and you see all these problems with alcohol and stuff. And I'm still doing it. And the next thing, I end up having another child in 94, November of 94. I have my second son, Dustin.
No. January of 94. You had
January
your
94. My son, Dustin. And I'm thinking, wow, I got 2 boys now. I'm living behind the bar now.
And you were working at it.
I'm working at the bar. I'm still feeding my addiction, giving it up.
It was probably the worst place for you to live, right behind a bar.
The temptation is right there.
You were still with your friends, because the fact that grandma opened a bar makes sense. You guys were very big in that community of bar hoppers, so
everybody knew
they're gonna come to your bar. So you had your friends at your bar. I remember being at the bar when I was a kid, going there and getting my Reese cup and soda, and then trying to get that glued quarter off the floor.
Oh yeah,
which I never knew it was glued. Until
they just get me busy for hours.
They're like, "Oh, try to get that quarter there," and I was like, "I'm gonna get that quarter."
It's actually funny to watch drunk people try to pick it up too.
I wasn't drunk; I was just full of soda.
But I see what you're saying. It's everybody knew everybody, and it was a small town, and
it felt like a community.
Yeah, you felt like fam. That was my family again.
Yeah, but then I remember you having very close friends too that would stop by. They would always help you with any projects that you had around the house. I remember them literally the people who taught me how to throw a football, throw baseball were drunk people at the bar who knew you guys and came and helped me do that. Because
we had
Daddy wasn't there.
Yeah, Daddy wasn't there. We had the deck. I mean, we had the deck.
Yeah,
I wanted to build a deck on the back, and it was like a 20 by 19. And it was done in 4 hours with everybody that I knew.
Because you just offered some beer.
Give them a few beers. I had a guy to inspect my car. I don't know where he got the stickers from. I just gave him a roll of, they weren't quarters, but they were a roll of beer chips. Hey, he was happy. This is what you did.
But this is in every aspect of your life. So for you to turn from this probably felt impossible, because everything was centered around
your childhood
alcohol.
Started with this, and you are still trying to, even though you had the wake up call to change your life, you still were in this lifestyle. You weren't completely changed.
Before Dustin was born, and it was, I know it was February or March, because it was cold outside. It was in 92, and I went to a church, and the preacher up there was Art McDonald, and I'm sitting there with you and your mom. And I remember the other people in the church. For some reason, I don't know what it was to come across me, is I had to go up front. And I didn't know what it was. And I'm holding you, and I'm crying, and I'm like, what's going on? Again, I mentioned that seed. The seed, it's getting water, and now it's starting to bloom. And I'm like, what the heck? I have these chills. I'm scared. So I asked Jesus Christ into my heart that day. And I can still remember holding you. You had your nice little blonde mohawk hair, and I think that was whenever your mom...
So I would have been about 3.
Yeah, you was almost 3, and she actually just couldn't believe that all these years, as the years went by, I had my next child. It was like not even
10 months later.
10 months later, yes.
That would have been November.
It was whenever Devin was born.
November 94.
I had one in January, and I had one in November.
Okay.
And I'm like, oh my. Living here isn't going to get it at the bar. And I have to find other ways. So we moved out from the bar. We moved into mother and dad's basement, which I turned into a 3-bedroom house. Found a different job. Now I was working at this job, providing still for my family. I never went out without a job. I always worked. But things were starting to get different to me. And I was starting to see things different. Now I'm a dad. I seen what happened. And I have 3 sons that I have to take care of. I don't want them to live the way I lived, because if I catch them doing things that I done, man, I'm going to put a foot right where the foot needs to go. And I don't want them to have that. I want them to have the best of things. I want them to have their Game Boys. I want them to have their Adidas or Nikes, or maybe Dustin wants chick pants. Just kidding. But I want them to have these things. So now I need to start changing my ways. Eventually, I start going to church with my family. Not all the time, but not just watching the little skits they were doing. I was actually sitting in church and listening. Now, I'm letting the Lord in. I'm listening. I'm listening. And just not watching the 10 Commandments on TV when I was a kid. That was my church. Now I understand what the 10 Commandments actually mean.
So for church, for you, it was 10 Commandments on Easter?
Yeah.
On the TV? And that was it?
Yeah. The robe, partying the sea, the whole 9 yards. And I'm thinking to myself, now I need to change. And I start changing my ways. I start going out maybe once or twice a week. I used to pull legs. I wouldn't drive. I'd always have somebody else drive me, or Nisha might drop me off, or somebody else might take me home. But it was starting to change the way I was. I wasn't joining in with the hoop and hollering as much as anymore. And then eventually I come home. It was right around Thanksgiving from my job. We usually stop in the morning and work in Hoodow, me and my friend, and we stop in and get a bumper, that's a quarter beer. We drink a quarter beer on the way home, and next thing you know, we stayed out a little bit later and later. I got home and Nisha wasn't happy, and it was Thanksgiving, and I'm corked, and I'm like, oh man, I gotta quit doing this stuff. And we started fighting again, and I said, she don't need to be put through this again. So I said, I'm done. And she laughed, and I said, no, I'm done. I gave everything over. I got on my hands and knees, and I prayed, and I talked to the Lord, and I said, help me. I need help. I'm down at my lowest. I have a big responsibility now, just not 1, 3, but also I have my wife. I want to change my ways, and I want to see them grow, not see how I did grow. And it's been 30 years since I quit drinking, smoking, and chewing.
You did it without rehabs, without doing like the special, you just quit cold turkey.
Yeah, I didn't use the patch. I sucked on a lot of root beer barrels.
I remember you chewing a lot of gum.
Butterscotch, gum. I used to drink non-alcoholic beer. And the thing you got to understand, I was helping out at the bar, tending bar, while these people are drinking, and I'm not. You talk about being tough.
Yeah.
And then my mother ended up getting married, and they're saying, oh, we'll get Boody to drink there, big giant party. Never touched it. I gotta honestly say, I still haven't touched a drop of alcohol. I might have tried a smoke here and there, or I might have tried to dip a snuff, but I have not touched alcohol to this day, because I'm not one of those ones that can just quit. Because if I drink, it's in my system, and I get mean, and I don't care who you are, I'm going to take you on. And I don't want that. I'm happy the way I live, and I give it all to the grace of God, asking for forgiveness, as I do every day. I ask for his blessings every day. But also, I never knew this. I didn't know you had to call prayer warriors. Oh my gosh. After I was growing and I was living and I was going to church and I was learning about this, I know of those people. There was this one lady I grew up with knowing. Her name was Mrs. Tolowitzki. It was my uncle's mom. And she said, Boody, I prayed for you ever since you was a little guy. And she was my prayer warrior. And she prayed for me until the day she passed. And she knew I was living my different life. She knew I was living for the Lord. And I had other people, my aunt, my grandma's sister. She prayed for me all the time too. And she went to church all the time. And she prayed for me all the time. And then I knew of other people. And I thought, wow, this is wonderful. Without their prayers, without Nisha praying, I won't be here today.
Yeah, it's intercession in your life that they were praying for, and I think it's also important to realize that in 92 is when you accepted God into your life.
Exactly.
But it wasn't an immediate change. So if anybody
No.
who's going out there thinks, hey, I'm going to give my life up to God right now, and tomorrow I'm going to stop drinking, or I'm going to stop the drugs, or there's even promiscuity in the marriage, and we'll have those times where you, like you said, let the seed get watered. Things are getting figured out, and then God starts breaking these chains that are on you. And it's thankful that my dad did break off the generational curses of alcohol, drugs, adultery. He broke those off, and it's something that my brothers and I, we don't actually struggle with. And him going to the church, even though he wasn't your perfect Christian, he wasn't the one who would get up and say the perfect prayer or see reading the Bible every day, you saw the effort that he put in and where God actually met him. And we were special enough to see that. Now, yes, growing up in that environment, you do have some things that you have to work through as an adult, but you see the man that your dad was, because I saw him from the beginning when it was horrible and he missed out on things. He would take us to like the drive-in and be passed out drunk. I remember bringing in New Year's and my dad's drunk on the couch because my mom said you have to be home by New Year's, and he was home by New Year's, but he wasn't there because he was passed out. I remember that dad, but then I got to see the dad who started coming to church with us and started going to men's prayer breakfasts and helping out with the youth group and stuff. I saw that dad too, and I saw that God met him in those places. So if you're going through the situations that he's grown up with, the physical, mental, sexual abuses, the issues that we're faced with in this day and age, and you think it's too hard, I need to give up, I'm just going to fall into my flesh, I'm just going to let nature play its course. Don't. He's here today. He has a loving wife. He has 3 kids who are close to him. He has grandchildren that adore him. And he's present for all of it because he's not drunk. He's not somebody who's sitting at a bar day in, day out, who's missing out on life. He's somebody who's actually living a full life with his family, the people he loved. When he passes in the far future, far off, when he's 102, I don't know, but when he passes off, we can sincerely say that we knew our father, we were with our dad, we learned from our dad, we saw him grow, we saw him mature in his faith, we saw him mature as an adult too, because the way he was living was a mature adult either. We knew this great man that,
I can't believe you said that. I'm a great man. But I love everything that you're saying. And like Dwayne's getting to is addictions, the curse of the family. You can always ask for forgiveness, look toward the Lord, and he will help you. You can be addicted to drinking too much Pepsi, eating too many cookies, anything like that. Those are all addictions. You just don't pick out the most ones. But that was addiction for me and something I had to fight with. But as I was growing as a Christian and as I was growing into the church, and like Dwayne said, I was becoming a young person. I was learning, and I was also teaching Sunday schools. I was teaching toddlers. I was teaching young teenagers. I was teaching adult classes. I was a trustee. I was a deacon. I did all these things through the churches. And it's hard. It's hard to live as a Christian. People think it's so easy. But it isn't. It's hard because once you give up a lot of those things that to me were fun, and you're going to find out who your true friends are. You're going to find out who your real family is. I have a lot of friends yet. I have a lot of family. And I love everybody to this day, and I will help them out as much as I can. But it hurts me inside because they do not really understand what life is all about. And that bothers me. It hurts me a lot.
So if we go back to that community too that you said that you've had established in the bar life and the party life, I guess we would call it. I remember those people coming around and helping you and stuff. But once you stopped drinking, once you were wanting to be with your family, and you would invite them to family things, family events or church events or something, they stopped coming around and they weren't as welcoming to come and help you with something because the alcohol wasn't there. And I know you mentioned the other addictions that are out there, but I think alcohol really is a hard addiction for people to get through because it does wreck families. It does wreck you. It separates you even harder from God because if you are an alcoholic or a drug addict, those are things that alter your emotions. They alter your state of thinking. So you as an alcoholic are an angry person. And I think it just magnified the anger that was in you because I think even without alcohol, you had some things to work through for your anger, and you worked through them. But I think alcohol, especially in this area, is important just because people don't know what to do without it. They still are looking for, oh, you don't have alcohol here? How many weddings have I gone to where somebody's, oh, there's no alcohol here, so we're not going to go. We're not going to go to the wedding. You're not going to go to a wedding to celebrate somebody, a friend of yours who, weddings aren't cheap. They invited you to that wedding and you're not going to go because you can't have an alcohol for an hour and a half, 2 hours. So I think your just testimony today speaks volumes to people who are going through these addictions, who maybe didn't have the greatest childhood or had nothing of God in them. They were just watching a television show or they just went to VBS. They can see your life and how you've come about and that there is God out there and he will meet you in the bar. He will meet you in your drunken stupor in the yard. He meets you in those places.
And then transforms. Look at how you are now. I never knew you that way, but I'm just proud
God
for...
People say God's not real. God's real.
Yeah.
And I can honestly say God is real and he blesses me and I thank him every day for his blessings. Just not giving up all the addictions and like Dwayne said, mentioned about the friends and everything. I have a lot of friends, but I don't. I used to have people there all the time coming around and stuff. But once you...
But I don't think you really are bothered by that. Because you're surrounded by people who really care and love you.
Yes, and right now it's more about my family, my grandchildren. Oh my gosh, I'd do anything for them, and they know that. And my daughter-in-laws, and I just look at everything and I'm blessed. And that's family. My mom and my stepdad Frank and my sisters and brother-in-laws and nieces and nephews, I love them all to death. Yes, they all know Jesus Christ and they all know God, but someday maybe they might see what problems they have and what problems they might not have. But I'm just saying that...
Because everybody deals with issues.
Oh yeah, for myself, it does bother me because people do quit coming around. There's a lot of people, and I do have a few people that really hurt me from not talking to me and stuff, but hey, I have life and I have God.
And I think that's what stops people from making that change, is it does hurt to... You're dying to yourself. You're dying to your old ways. And with that, it's losing friendships, losing relationships, but you do get that relationship with God. I did want to mention one thing. I also noticed a shift in your relationship with God when you stopped living it through Mom.
Oh, yeah.
Mom was your connection to God. She was the person who was making sure you went to church. I would say she was probably the biggest prayer intercessor in your life. Mm-hmm. And she made sure that we all went to church. And I remember you always being like, if your mom's not going to heaven, I'm not going to heaven. If mom stopped with God, you would stop with God. And I noticed that you started taking a relationship more of, it's your relationship with God. Mom's not this, we'll say a veil between you and God. You felt like you needed to go through her to get to him. but I felt like you stopped thinking that way, stopped putting her on a pedestal. I know you still put her on a pedestal and you're going to get into the lovey-dovey stuff, but you stopped putting her on that spiritual pedestal and you replaced her with the true person that needs to be there, and that's God. And I think when you started doing that, huge transfer. Those big things that we saw with the alcoholism, the drugs, all of those things, we saw those fall off because they were huge and they needed to fall off. And I think part of it was because you wanted to make sure that you had a good family unit. But those small things of changes and transformations in your heart, I don't think truly happened until you started focusing on God for your relationship instead of through mom. And that's just somebody who lived in the house and was watching it. You reading your daily breads with mom, you doing your own prayers, your own devotions, getting into the word and stuff on your own has done a big impact. And it's been this last couple of, I would say 10 years or so with grandkids coming and things, I think you really took leaps and bounds in those small things that really needed to change too in your life.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's just a testament too on you conquered so much big things in your life and you're never done growing. I mean, none of us are, and your testimony is still being written. But the fact that you also reached out and took God for yourself was a huge impact on our family, I think. So,
but it's true because it's not that easy. And like you said, the mustard seeds grew and blossoming. Not a complete rose bouquet or anything like that.
No, more thorns.
Yeah, I was getting ready to say more like a cactus.
Yeah, a little prickly.
Pretty flowers on them too.
They do, one or two.
But
hey, they're full of water.
You need God. It's not easy, and you still grow and grow. Being a Christian isn't the easiest thing in the world.
So what encouraging things would you give to somebody out there who might be struggling with the same?
If you need somebody to talk to, go to your local church, your pastor, get a hold of me, Steph, Dwayne. I might not be able to tell you the exact words. I don't quote scripture. I know where the scripture's found at in certain areas. I always looked in Corinthians, Romans.
Yep.
You can get a lot of answers through your life, and I always called it the pagan living. That's what I call it, the pagan living. And for Christians that know what that means, but those non-Christians that don't, read your Bible, ask for forgiveness. And there's hotlines out there too. Yeah. It's not easy. It's hard.
If you are going through addiction, you know, there is the work the system, the 7 steps. Reach out to that. But I think what you're touching on too is great, is like where you had that bar community, replace it with a spiritual community.
Yeah, grace, that's church, what you need.
Yeah.
Church body, the word, prayer, that's what you would need in that community.
I do thank you for having me come in for this testimony. And on a side note here, just to get back, is whenever Dwayne finally met his match, the best thing that ever happened to him, his wife, Steph.
Everybody heard it.
Steph went home and her dad, Rick, says, "You met somebody?" "Yeah." "What's his name?" "Dwayne." "Who's his dad?" And he says, "They call him Boody." He said, "Oh, no, not him."
He married us, and that's what he...
And he married him, and I can still remember that. And Rick and the Sodmonts knew me from growing up also, but to see the change, Rick seen the change, Pastor Chris seen the change from me over the years, and it's nice that they can call me a godly man, but don't ever call me a godly man because I'm still growing.
Right.
And
we're all growing.
The only way I can grow is with God. If you need somebody, that's who you need to go to. Fall to your knees, pray. You think it might be stupid, but it's not. He does listen. He does hear. And you do have to make changes. Not saying that your prayer's never going to be heard. It's going to be heard. But you can help also.
Yeah. We want to say thank you for coming. Thank you for the testimony. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. Share and subscribe if you can. We're going to have the next Testimony Tuesday in September, so look for that. The next episode for the regular scheduled midweek mic is going to be out Wednesday. So look for that tomorrow. Okay. Talk to everybody Wednesday.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.